Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 29 of the OK Listen Here Roundtable. I am your host and founder of OK Listen Here, Dawson Haywood, and as always, I'm joined by the greatest sport mind that I know personally, the great Philip Pilkington. Philip, it's been a few weeks since we've been on the podcast, but we're back better than ever. How are we doing today?
Pretty good. A little tired back from my traveling out to the mountain time zone, but it was a good week, especially a good Saturday night because I get to hang out with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then the last podcast that we recorded, you were coming back from what, Mexico? Is that
Yep.
correct? Yeah, so you got a Mexico podcast, Colorado podcast. Got any other big trips coming up this year?
A week long, no. I am going to Atlanta for a weekend. I got a friend who lives down there now, works for Warner Brothers Sports. Like he runs like the official March Madness Twitter page,
Huh.
and we're gonna go down there with another friend of mine who lives here. We're gonna go down there and watch some Braves games. So
Nice. Sounds like a good week. Well, before we get this episode kicked off, we're gonna do a ad read for the OK Listen Here Premium blog. This episode is brought to you by the OK Listen Here Premium blog. Elevate your fan experience with the OK Listen Here Premium blog for $5 a month. Unlock the gateway to exclusive, in-depth analysis of your cherished team's unfiltered opinions. Really want to emphasize that. Unfiltered opinions and exciting giveaways. Don't miss out. Visit oklistenhere.com today to sign up. So, Philip and I did a little bit of discussing before this podcast, and I think with a lot of life that's going on, we have decided that we are going to do a bi-weekly podcast instead of doing it weekly. I think that it brings better quality, more quality to the podcast instead of just quantity. So just be expecting that. We will be taking next week off, and then we'll be back here in 2 weeks, which is July 22nd will be our next recording. So keep that in mind as we move forward, but we will still continue to bring you guys the content that we love and conversing about NASCAR. So, of course, follow us on Twitter because we are always producing content there. So, we have a lot to discuss over the last 2 weeks since we've last talked. First and foremost, starting with Chase Briscoe, who was announced he will take over for Ryan Truex, for Martin Truex Jr. driving the number 19 car in 2025. Philip, what do you think of this move for Briscoe?
this is a guy who, in his final year of wait, might not have been his final year. It's either his final year or second to last year. I don't have the notes in front of me. Of Xfinity Series competition, won 8 races in a year. That doesn't happen often. It's clear that he has the ability to be a top tier driver. He's been at a terrible organization, living out his dream of driving for Tony Stewart, his favorite driver growing up as a kid. Obviously, he's from Indiana. Tony Stewart's from Indiana, and he deserves a top tier Cup ride. He deserves to show what he can do. He's always kind of outperformed the crappy equipment that he's had, except for this week when it seemed like he was in the tire barrier about every other lap. And I'm happy for him. I think this is a good addition for Joe Gibbs Racing. I thought they were going to go Corey Heim here, but now he'll probably go to 2311 Racing. At least that's my opinion, even though there's been Riley Herbst rumors. But hey, good for Chase. And if Joe Gibbs, look, if they who knows how good he's going to be, but if you want a guy who's going to fit the mold of your organization, look, he's going to get some of that Bass Pro Shop sponsorship. He's very much an outdoor hunter and fisher, so he can go to these events and he can be a part of it and know exactly what he's talking about. He's been very open about his faith, and if you know anything about Joe Gibbs Racing, they're very Christian religious over there, and they talk about it openly a lot, and it's a very much of what they do and how they do things. So he's going to fit in. Now, will he perform to their expectations? Only time will tell, but I think he definitely has the ability to.
You know, Philip, you saying that, I think I realized now. Do believe we did touch up on this the last episode because I remember.
I
I
think we
feel
did.
like I remember you saying quite literally that exact thing. So let's not spend too much time here. That's my bad for putting that in the notes this week. But hey, that's what happens whenever you get an amateur producer over here in myself. So,
It's all good.
but yeah, Chase Briscoe, it'll be exciting to see him move up. And like you said, he found some success in the Xfinity series, and now that he's being put in better equipment, hopefully we'll see him do a little bit of something. But speaking of the Xfinity series, it was announced yesterday that effective immediately, want to emphasize that point, effective immediately, Hailey, Deegan, and AM Racing are parting ways. Deegan has 4 top 20 finishes in the 17 races this season, and her best finish was 12th at Talladega. And Josh Berry will drive in her place at Pocono. And beyond that, who knows what the future of that car is, and who knows what the future of Deegan is. Phil, I know this is your girl, but what do you think of this move? And any inside scoop as to why this effective immediately is his hit?
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of raises some red flags with it being effective immediately, right? So we were under the impression this was a 2-year contract because she did say multi-year deal, probably not going more than two when it was originally signed. Now the fact that they had Joey run this past week, I wouldn't say I was blindsided by this news just because she didn't drive this past week at the Chicago Street Course, but I was a little blindsided last week that she wasn't running. This is interesting because this is a driver that typically does have sponsorship. You know, we've had these situations where someone has been even more so of a championship contender. She's not really a championship contender, but is a full-time driver. But I remember a few years ago with Brett Moffitt in the Truck Series, it might have even been last year, where he was just outside the playoff picture, and then all of a sudden, boom, he no longer has a ride. Actually, you know what? Now that I say that out loud, it may have been actually AM Racing last year in the Xfinity Series. I need to look that up real quick. But point is, it's happened before. It's a little shocking with someone with as much sponsorship as her to have this happen. So, I don't know if something was said, if this is behind closed doors, there was an argument. They said, you know what, you don't have to drive here anymore. If this was one of those issues where everybody's displeased. I mean, at the end of the day, this is kind of an underfunded team, and underfunded teams are not going to run well at intermediates. And she's not a great short track racer. If you look at her Truck Series career and a lot of where her better races have come, they've come on the intermediate tracks. And other than Talladega, her best career finish is 13th at Las Vegas back in 2022 in her first Xfinity Series race, and that was a 13th place finish there. So, not really a great marriage to begin with, and now it's over. But who knows? Somebody with her sponsorship, you would think, will land a ride at least part time in the Truck or the Xfinity Series. But hey, only time will tell. Maybe this is her way out of NASCAR, and she goes back into dirt racing, where she clearly has had success as a youth. If you're advising her, you'd say do everything you can to stay in NASCAR because that's where the money is. The only way you're getting paid more in NASCAR is going F1 racing. She's definitely not doing that.
Yeah, no, she would not go F1 racing. But I saw a lot of discourse online about this topic, and Deegan has had some success, at the truck race. I'm not going to sit here and say that she's the greatest that there ever was, but she built a brand for herself, and she was, she finished pretty decent in the truck series, and was relatively consistent, depending on what your definition of consistent is. But do you think that possibly she was rushed into Xfinity because of the amount of sponsorship that she had? Do you think she could have developed, maybe taken another year or two to develop and then move up to the Xfinity series? Or, like you said, there's a possibility that she just moves back down to dirt. And I mean, that kind of poses a question too. Dirt is, especially with the high limits racing going on right now, that series, there's money in it and it's coming. I think dirt is an up and coming sport that we could see become a more national, I don't know, I guess event. It's not going to be as big as NASCAR, but I do see it being more relevant in the racing community than what it is now. But I guess let's start with this. Do you think she was rushed into the Xfinity series?
So just quick, I did misspoke earlier. It was with Our Motorsports back in 22 that happened to Brett Moffitt before he went to AM Racing. But anyways, yes and no. Her truck performance did not say that she's ready for an Xfinity Series ride. However, there are plenty of drivers who historically in the past have struggled in trucks because they drive so much differently and have went ahead and been passed on to the Xfinity series. Harrison Burton is one of those guys. Brad Keselowski, if you look at all of his truck success, it's after he was a full-time Cup Series driver. He was abysmal truck driver, but was very competitive in the Xfinity series. So they run so much different. And the fact that she did have ARCA West At the time, K&M West success, three wins, two of which were
Mm-hmm.
on dirt. The only one not was coming in Colorado, and that was the only asphalt win. But which I unfortunately did not get to go to that track despite staying about 2 miles from it over this past week, so I did not get to attend any races there. But yeah, I mean, look, there's plenty of guys. Look, Ben Rhodes, right, is way more qualified to move up than Hailey Deegan, but also, again, there are plenty of drivers that I wouldn't want you to judge them on their truck career. And so many drivers have skipped truck. I mean, a few years ago, Ryan Preece, when he ran and won that truck race at Nashville, that was his first ever time in a truck. If you look at someone like Ty Gibbs, I don't even know if he has a truck start. If he does,
Mm-hmm.
it's one or two. So, was she rushed? Maybe, but also I felt like she learned a lot about the tracks in her ARCA season back in 2020. So you would think that's enough to learn the tracks and learn how to run them. You run a lot of the same tracks, and unfortunately, there hasn't been much success.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at her ARCA, and now how many drivers generally compete week to week in ARCA?
How many drivers are on the entry list, or how many actually compete? There's a huge
Are on
difference.
the entry list? Are on the entry list?
Anywhere from 25 to 35.
Yeah, so I mean, looking at like you said, that 2020 season, she's got tons of top tens. There's one, two, three races that she didn't finish top 10. She finished third back in 2020 with Ford. Um, and then, of course, in the truck series, not as much success, but 17th, 21st, and 19th. So, not the greatest, but like you said, you can't judge someone off of the truck. So, I mean, with the sponsorships and all that, do you think she makes another appearance in the Xfinity series for another team one day? Or where do you see her career? How do you see it panning out moving forward? I know there's a lot of we can sit here and speculate all day, but you're my in-house genius on this. So how do you if you had to put money on it right now, how do you see her career panning out moving forward?
It's a tough question to answer because we don't know if this breakup was between AM Racing and Hailey Deegan or Ford and Hailey Deegan. If this was strictly an AM Racing and Hailey Deegan breakup, no doubt she will be in a car probably before the end of the year, if not when we show up to Daytona for Speed Week next year. Um, if this was a Ford breakup, I'd be worried if I was her. Chevy has a deep farm system. Toyota's is fairly deep, and the one that is struggling is Ford right now. Ford is the one where, not that it has a lot of seats, anyways, doesn't really have a lot of great Ford drivers. Yeah, ThorSport is now back to Ford, but those aren't necessarily Ford drivers when you look at Ty Majeski and Ben Rhodes and Matt Crafton's obviously too old to move up, but guys like that. So, um, I know I'm kind of going in circles and not really answering your question, but I think we need to find out more. But if we find out it was strictly AM Racing and Hailey, she's 100% back. If it's a Ford thing, she might get some part time opportunities here and there because, if Natalie Decker's getting part time opportunities, Hailey's a heck of a lot better than her.
Yeah, I was about to crack me a little Natalie Decker dig in there, but you beat me to it. So, well, I guess we'll have to see where Hailey Deegan's career goes from here, and I mean she'll be around. Obviously, there's enough sponsorship dollars around her, and NASCAR is reliant on sponsorship dollars, so she's not going anywhere anytime soon. At least that's my prediction. So, as we move on to Pocono, taking her place is Josh Berry. And speaking of Josh Berry, he will. It was announced this past week that he will be taking over the number 21 car in 2025, booting Harrison Burton out of his seat and being the driver for Wood Brothers. So, with Briscoe and Berry now signed somewhere in 2025. Well, actually, let's start with this. I know I'm getting ahead of myself here, but is this a good move for Josh Berry and Wood Brothers? How do you see this relationship panning out?
Yeah, Wood Brothers has not been a competitive team week in and week out in a long time. I mean, Ryan Blaney obviously won some races there, but it was clear that that was just a placeholder team for him. When you're Wood Brothers, look, you're not the team you were when David Pearson was driving for you in the 70s. You are a team that, quite frankly, can win races, but at the end of the day, you need somebody to keep the fenders on the car. And if anybody's going to run with maturity, it's going to be a guy who throughout most of his career was funding his own ride, which he was doing until he got noticed by Dale Jr. and got in the Xfinity Series. He keeps the fenders on it, except for this past week. Seems like all the Stewart Haas guys were in the tire barriers, but hey, to be fair, he grew up driving short tracks, not rainy road courses. So, yeah, look, I mean, this is a perfect opportunity for them to get their 100th win as a team, him to get his first win as a driver. If you're Wood Brothers, you want to stay relevant, you want to keep your charter, and Josh Berry brings a little bit of funding, and they obviously have some funding themselves, and he's going to keep the fenders on it and show it back to the shop with probably what you took out of the shop previously that week, and that's a working race car. So when you're Wood Brothers, that's all you can ask for. When you're a guy who's a 30-some-year-old Cup rookie, you're not going to get a top-tier ride. That's all you can ask for is a team that you know will undoubtedly give you support, and they will. They always back their drivers. So congratulations to him. Stinks for Harrison Burton, but at the end of the day, you want to keep a job and got to perform. He hasn't done so.
Yeah, so with that being said, what happens to Harrison Burton? Obviously, I think Cup Series is completely out of the picture. I won't say 100%, but 99.99% sure we will not see him in a cup ride in 2025. But what do we see happening to him? Do you think he finds an Xfinity ride, maybe a truck ride, maybe an
Yeah,
ARCA ride?
I think so. I think so. There's always Xfinity rides. A lot of those rides are 1 year deals. Obviously has some more sort of relationship with Ford now, even though he was Toyota in the Xfinity Series. AM Racing sounds like they have a seat. They're a Ford team
Mm-hmm.
as they got rid of Hailey Deegan. So yeah, like he'll find something. He works hard. He's got the knowledge because he's the son of of Jeff. So it's just a question of God given talent, and that's something you're just born with, can't help. And at the end of the day, he has all the things that are tangible, and good head on his shoulders, nice young man, good with the sponsors, nice to the fans, easy to work with, all that fun stuff. And so as long as he brings some sponsorship, which he should with Dex Imaging, uh, he'll find a ride. Look, if he goes down, hopefully it's a competitive ride in the Xfinity Series, and he can go down there and compete for championships. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a career like Elliott Sadler or Justin Allgaier, where you're a good Xfinity driver, you go up to Cup, you struggle, and you come back down, and you're a championship contender every year. You're still making millions and millions of dollars, so maybe that's what happens to Harrison Burton.
Yeah, and I mean, another thing to consider too is, he is only 23 years old, and so he's got a long racing career ahead of him. Um, Maybe just some of that maturity in the car. Like you said, he's a great guy to have on a team. It sounds like, who if you hate Harrison Burton, there's something wrong with you. But um, who knows? I mean, he's 23 years old and had some experience in the Cup. He'll probably go down, come back up, like you said, and we'll see what he does from there. So he had what he came and was signed with Wood Brothers back in 21. So this would be his third season in the Cup Series. Is that correct?
I think that sounds right.
Yeah.
Because whenever
So
Matty D left,
yeah. So 23 years old and 3 seasons. In the Cup, and obviously successful in other series. So I think we'll see Harrison Burton back again. And so now I know earlier this year you and I had kind of toyed with the idea that potentially Daniel Suarez would sign with Wood Brothers. I know that was a conversation that was had. And so now that is obviously not an option for Daniel Suarez, he is still a free agent in 2025. Trackhouse is getting, they're going to be getting another charter. And I feel like the closer we get to the end of the season and seats getting filled, do you think Trackhouse keeps him? Do you think they move up both Zane Smith and SVG? What do you see Trackhouse doing here?
I think for now they're gonna run with Daniel Suarez. He brings a good amount of funding. And look, if you look at the point standings going into this week, SVG had 2 wins, therefore he was locked in to the Xfinity Series playoffs. But if it was strictly off points, he was below the cut line. He was in 13th in points. And you talk about rushing drivers up. He is not ready to go Cup racing full time with the amount of big intermediate ovals on the Cup schedule. His talent is there. He's in his 30s, so will he have time to develop the skill set to pair with that talent before he ages out? Who knows? And maybe if you're Trackhouse Racing, you say this is our one chance to get this guy up. And if that's the case, maybe you take advantage of that. But I just don't think it's the right move right now. I would stick with Daniel Suarez. But if he doesn't, stick there, look, at the end of the day, there's 2 Front Row Motorsports rides still open. Haas technically has a seat open. I'm sure they'll probably keep one of their 2 guys. The other charter is going to go somewhere, right? It's probably going to 2311 is what we're hearing, and I would guess he would not be in contention for that ride. But at the end of the day, that could swoop up another free agent that would just have another seat available. So Daniel Suarez is going to run Cup next year. Where it is, who knows? But I'm if I had to bet, I'd bet Trackhouse.
Yeah. So let's see. I'm taking a look at my notes here, trying to see how I can progress. So Front Row Motorsports, Todd Gilliland is still there, and they'll have 2 charters next year. So who goes there? I mean, Briscoe and Priest and Gregson are still free agents, and like you said, Stuart Haas will probably keep one of them. If they're smart, they'll keep Gregson for sponsorships. But Front Row's got 2 seats to fill. Who fills those seats? Harrison Burton.
No. I think that Ryan Preece is a maybe. And I think Riley Herbst. I know he's been, connected arguably to that that's third 2311 potential ride. We're gonna let's just call it the 67 car. We don't know the number of it yet, but that's a number that they run sometimes. So we're gonna call it the 67. So I think that he does. I think that Corey Heim gets that ride. So I could see Riley Herbst. He's a Ford guy now. He was Toyota in a previous life, but I could see them moving him up. But also, there's Cole Custer. Even though Stuart Haas is planning on still running 2 cars next year in the Xfinity Series. Not sure what his father's employment status is going to be, if they're going to keep him at Haas or if they're going to let him go. But, Cole Custer, he's won a Cup Series race. He dropped back down. He's looking very competitive in the Xfinity Series, and now his second full-time year back. So I think it's either Cole Custer or Riley Herbst, and then probably whoever Haas does not retain. But who knows? That's kind of the boring answer, and the boring answer never seems to happen in NASCAR. So I will 100% be wrong, but the answer will be so far out of the ballpark, I would not be able to dream it up in my craziest imagination.
Next thing we know, Hailey Deegan's getting a Cup Series ride for somebody.
Hailey Deegan. There we go.
Be Hailey
Front Row
Deegan.
Motorsports, the number 36 car, now being piloted by Hailey Deegan. And wouldn't it be funny, though, if they went and got one of their old guys back, like brought David Reagan or somebody back?
Dude, I couldn't imagine. Bring back Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart runs for Haas Factory, and Priest goes to front row. And
I wouldn't hate, though, like Front Row bringing in an old guy who's ran Cup. Like, bring in Parker Kligerman, or bring in Trevor Bain, or David Reagan, or somebody like that. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
Jamie Mack. It ain't happening.
Carl Edwards.
Please. That's too good to be true.
I know it is. But, I mean, all right, here's the thing. I know this isn't in any of our notes, but here's the thing with Carl Edwards. The dude is hanging around the sport. He has got to make an appearance at some point, if not this season, next season. He is too close and has made too many public appearances attached to NASCAR to not. Am I insane for thinking that he comes back part-time next season?
No, you're not insane to say he comes back part-time. I think he's done full-time racing. I think he's been out of it too long. I think we stand a better chance of a full season from Martin Truex Jr. in a lower series than we do Carl Edwards. But I could definitely see Carl Edwards saying, Roush, that 60 car clearly has a little speed. Joey Hand looked good in it the other day. Let's go run Daytona 500.
Now, where did Joey Hand come from? Because I was watching the race. I was like, who the hell is this guy? Like, we didn't do your entry list preview for the Chicago race. So I was like, who's this guy? I've never heard of him.
Yeah, so Joey Hand is I think he's a sports car guy, because he's won 2 Rolex 24s. But he's ran 7 Cup Series races. Most of those came last year. He ran, I want to say every road course last year. Let me go down and check that. But yeah, he's a sports car racer, and he's won the Rolex 24, like I said, twice. He's actually won the 24 Hours of Le Mans as well. So,
2016. Yep.
yeah, just a guy. Yeah, so he ran the Roval back in 2021, and then ran a handful of road courses last year. Coda Sonoma, Road America. What the hell is ICR? Oh, the Indianapolis road course. Sorry, Watkins Glen and the Roval last year. So pretty much everything but the street course at Chicago, and then obviously ran this past week. So just a guy who's pretty good at turning left and right, and they had a spot
It's
for
about
him,
any
so
guy
they
that NASCAR
slapped him in
brings
there.
in on road courses, a guy that can turn left and
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
You know,
So
I'd love to see Max Verstappen in a NASCAR ride. That'd be fun. Just one time. I don't care where.
yeah,
Coda. Bring him to Coda.
it would be cool. The problem is it's going to have to be after he retires.
Oh, easy. Yeah, it would
Yeah,
not be during
because
his
it's
prime.
just too hard to do it right now. I mean, and we've gotten guys, maybe not to his level, we've gotten guys like him. I remember Kimi Räikkönen a couple years
Mm-hmm.
ago ran at Watkins Glen. So obviously we've had Jenson Button,
Mm-hmm.
former F1 champion, and there's a couple guys I'm leaving out, Jordan Taylor. So there's been plenty of guys do it. It's just a matter of when, I think, with Max Verstappen, not if. The problem is he's very young, so that when is probably 15 years down the road.
No, for real, for real. That'd be the crossover of the century if he came over right. You know, now. I think NASCAR needs to take a big chunk of money and throw it his way. Just say, hey, come race one time over here at Coda for us. One good
Like
time.
with the 1,100 miles, he runs Monaco in the morning and
Mm-hmm.
flies to Charlotte and
There
runs
you
the
go.
600.
Yeah, there you go. That would work. He'd probably do it. But yeah, so as far as news goes, that's really all that I have. Philip, is there anything else that came across your Twitter timeline that you feel like should be brought up and discussed?
Not really. There's a few things I want to discuss that just kind of had to do with the race and certain drivers, but that was kind of it. I mean, the big thing is we're in silly season, so not that there's not other small news around, but when you get to silly season Cup Series things, and with big name drivers, it's not like Cody Ware. Um, that's that kind of overtakes anything.
Yeah, I'm looking through my trending on Twitter right now, just making sure that there's no new news, from the last like 15 minutes, because that's what I like to do before these episodes. But with that being said, let's get into a little bit of Nashville recap. Very what a race that was. Very hot day to say the least.
Yeah, I heard it was hot.
Yeah,
Your dad told me it was really hot.
yeah. Well, I'm sure my dad did tell you it was hot because during the national anthem, homeboy decided he wanted to take a little unplanned nap, and him and I had to leave the race before the green flag even flew. So God bless his soul. It's just can't handle the heat no more. But that's all right. We ended up watching, the last bit of it, and it happens. It was a hot one out there. We were in the first heat advisory of the year, so probably wasn't a smart idea to be out there anyways. But hey, we did everything we could to keep them upright and awake. But
Are you going to make a NASCAR race this year? Because you technically didn't see any cars in action.
I did not see any cars in action. No, it looks like I will not be going to. Probably won't be going to another NASCAR race this year.
You're not that far from Talladega.
I am not far from Talladega. Might see if we can make an appearance there. And I apologize if you.
The only problem is Brooklyn's due date is also not far from Talladega.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I apologize if you hear a motorcycle in the background. There's a dude in my apartment complex that has like a little Grom, and he just likes to rip it up and down the road at random hours of the night. So apologize for that. But yeah, I don't know. I think the new home race for me will be unless they move the Nashville race to later in the evening, like 6:00, instead of in the literal dead heat of the day. It gets hot. The peak heat is around 3:00, which is about when that race started. But I think home race for me from now on will probably be Bristol, the Bristol night race. Stay out of the sun, stay out of the heat, unless we can secure a suite or something like that. So, but regardless, it was an eventful day for me. But moving on with the race, Joey Logano snapped a 49 race winless streak, and in the fifth overtime of the race. Zane Smith would finish in second, giving him his best finish of the season. And really, all that is because drivers were dropping like flies because they were running on fumes and they just needed to refuel. Had it not been for, had there only been one or two overtime restarts, Hamlin probably would have won because him and the entire Joe Gibbs team had freaking rockets that day. I think Christopher Bell was even there in the running for a good little bit. But fuel ended up being the biggest factor, and this would give Joey Logano his first win of the season, and he is now in playoffs. And Phil, what's your big takeaway from this race?
The big takeaway is that a little electric prototype they had this past weekend better not become a race car because fuel mileage races are too good. Yeah, if I was Denny, I'd be ticked off. You had the race won in regulation. You had it won in one of the overtimes. I mean, you mentioned he had it.
I think it was like two overtimes. I think two overtimes.
Yeah, that he was way out front though, and it was clearly his. So frustrating day for Denny. Frustrating year for Joey, but hey, now he's in the playoffs. He's got 2 wins. One of those being a one that gets him in the playoffs. He obviously won the All-Star race, leading 199 of 200 laps at North Wilkesboro. So, it was fun. I didn't get to watch a lot of it. I was in Colorado, flipped it on my phone to watch the last 2 laps. An hour and a half later, it seemed like I was sitting in my aunt and uncle's living room, and I had finally migrated to the TV and put it on there. But gotta love Nashville. It's one of the better intermediates. It produced a very racy race once again, and Joey became the 11th driver to lock his way into the playoffs. And now, as of recording this podcast, we are up to 12 of the 16 spots taken with just 6 regular season weeks to go. Doesn't feel like it, but when you got 2 weeks off for the Olympics, that's what it is. So not much really, I guess, to take away there, but that's what I got for you.
Yeah. And so moving forward to the Chicago street race, Chase Briscoe would clip SVG on lap 25 after losing control because the track was very, very wet and they ran wet tires, and that made for some fun racing. But luckily for SVG, he didn't go home empty-handed this past weekend. He did win the Xfinity race, and his car looked mighty delicious too. And that's why, for the first time in a few episodes, I am nominating his car for paint scheme of the week. Not of the week, of the year. The Wendy's car. It looked good. I'm definitely going to go try some of those. I don't even know what they're called. I'm sure they got them advertised somewhere at Wendy's. But speaking of winless streaks being snapped, Alex Bowman snaps his 80 race winless streak and was up till 7 o'clock in the morning this morning. Yeah, that means all 4 Hendrick drivers have a win this year. And so, question I want to pose to you, should NASCAR go back to Chicago Street, or should they go back and run it at Chicagoland Speedway? Or, well, yeah, let me ask that first.
Yeah, I'm kind of over the street course, to be honest. I heard it was cool. I know a guy who did not attend, but he was close enough to peek through a fence on Saturday and see some of the Xfinity cars go by. His wife didn't. They had already been to a Cubs game. She's like, I'm done with, sporting events, and he's not actually a NASCAR fan, but I'm getting him into it. It's a guy I work with. It's our 247 sports writer at East Carolina, Stephen Igo. But he's like, okay, now you got to take me to a real race. I'm in. So that was cool that, the people that can experience it. But at the end of the day, it's so tight. It's so tough to pass. And I haven't heard anything, haven't talked to anybody on the inside about issues that may have gone down. But last year, people trying to steal tires, steal stuff out of the pit box. I mean, you're running the hood of Cook County. It was not shown on TV, but there were protesters trying to climb the fence. You're probably not going to get that down in Juliet. Now, there was a legit protest in the middle of the week of not the race itself, but some first responders had a nice peaceful protest just saying, hey, some of these roads have been cleared off for a month and we are taking longer to respond to medical emergencies. This is not a good thing. This is people's lives we're talking about. So not a huge fan of the street course in general for that. Overall, the racing's been, I guess, decent over the 2 years, but it's been tough to tell with all the rain. Go down to Juliet. If you get some hoodlums, you probably don't have as many there as you do in Cook County. And at one time, there was a prison in Juliet that you can slam them in, or at least there was in the movie The Blues Brothers, because that's where Jake was in the beginning when Elwood came and got him out.
Hey, same thing with
don't know
Darlington.
if there's still a prison. Yeah?
Yeah, you can just slap some of the rowdy ones in that prison right across the street.
There you go. So
it's effective.
Yeah, it is, and I've never had any issues at Darlington. Knock on wood, in the times I've been. So, um, I'm a huge advocate for Chicagoland. It was one of the better mile and a halves as it was. Should have not been taken off the schedule, and who knows if they take away the Chicago Street Race? Will they go back there? Will they go to Road America? Will they go somewhere else? Only time will tell. But um, definitely wouldn't be totally upset if they don't go back to the street course.
Yeah, and do you see them running? Because I thought they had some street course playing somewhere in California next year or
Yeah,
something.
there's some rumors
Or
they're going to run Long Beach where the Indy cars run. So
mm.
I don't know.
So do you? I mean, would you like to see a street course on the schedule every year? Maybe every other year, just to not oversaturate it. Because I mean, NASCAR isn't. I mean, those cars aren't built for really for
No.
street racing. If you want street racing, you got to do something different to the cars. But I mean, do you think there's a place for street racing in NASCAR? Should they continue doing it, or is this something we should do maybe once or twice every 5 years?
In the Gen 7 car, we need to have wider straightaways and less 90-degree turns if you want to run a street car. Now, if you take the car that they took to the 24-hour Le Mans last year and you put that on a street course, I'd still vouch for a little more width. But other than that, hey, yeah, I'm okay with it. I got to see, was it Jenson Button? Don't quote me on it, but I think it was Jenson Button driving around the Roval last year before the race. And man, that thing it sounds amazing. It's loud, and it gets up out of the it gets in the back into the throttle pretty well. So I would love to see that one on a street course, but in the Gen 7 era,
Well,
yeah,
okay, so
not a huge fan.
here's my question to you. With how successful the NASCAR Le Mans car was, why don't we just race that car in NASCAR across the board? Why don't we just do that?
Just because
That
it's successful on a street course doesn't mean it's going to be successful at Martinsville or at Charlotte
mm,
or Talladega.
I guess that's
There's a lot
true.
to consider. So
See
road
this.
course right now is only 1/6 of the schedule. Actually, it's less than that now. We have 5 road courses this year of 36 races, so only about 1/7 of the schedule.
Yeah. So SVG, I do kind of want to touch up on that. He was running well all day. Could have done the back to back, but obviously he got clipped there because Briscoe just overshot it. I mean, it was the funniest darn thing. Just overshot it and clipped him and wouldn't, uh, couldn't seal the deal because of that. But do you think SVG could have went on and won the day had that not happened?
With that weird strategy in the shortened race, who knows? But he was very much a contender. He stood a good chance. He was my favorite going in. But my second favorite was Kyle Larson. Those are the two guys that finished last and second to last.
Yep.
So who knows? But especially like I said with that the strategy that kind of played out there at the end. But definitely he was a contender. Definitely could have won the race.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we will move forward to tipping your cap and shaking your head. But before we do so, I want to give a huge shout out to Bojangles, where every bite takes you on a journey to the heart of Carolina comfort food. Founded in 1977, Bojangles has been serving up mouth-watering chicken, flaky biscuits, and refreshing iced tea with the side of warm smiles for over 45 years. I want to give a huge shout out to the Charlottesville, Winchester, Harrisburg, and Stanton Bojangles stores up in Virginia for sponsoring the 2024 Bojangles Perfect Week Challenge. Visit oklistenhere.com today for more information. So, Philip, over the last 2 weeks, got a lot to think about. Who are you tipping your cap to?
I'm going to tip my cap to Blake Harris, not only for his call to keep the 48 out, but to get his first win on top of the 48 pit box. Hopefully, this is things that are signs to come. You mentioned the long losing streak there for Alex Bowman. His last win came with Greg Ives on top of the pit box, and a lot of times it takes a new driver and crew chief a little couple years to get going. They've obviously had a year plus of racing now, not quite a year and a half due to Alex obviously being out last year for a handful of races with that broken back. So good for those guys, and they've been well. I think they had 9 or 10 top tens coming in to that race, but just had not finished in in first and got a chance to do some burnouts and get a victory lane. So congratulations to Blake Harris and the whole Ally 48 Hendrick Motorsports team.
Do you think Alex Bowman woke up naked in a bathroom today?
According to his tweet, it sounded like he was most likely going to. Maybe he was, maybe learned from his mistakes and kept his draws on. But yeah, who knows? I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody on the inside. But hey, you know what? You got to celebrate a win. Celebrate a win. Good for you, Alex. 8, I think it is, career wins now for him. So
I'm sure there'll be more
and
to
you're in
come.
playoffs.
Breaking that
There's
seal, I'm
definitely
sure
gonna be more
there's
to
more to
come.
come for him.
Yeah, there's more to come. It took Cole Pearn. When Cole Pearn retired, James Small took over as MTJ's crew chief. They did get a win at Martinsville in 2020, and then they went a while before they got that second win. And kind of once they got that second win, they just boom, 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 and got a lot right there together. So, hey, maybe that's what's going to happen with Alex. I mean, he's won 4 races in the year before, so it's not like he's not a contender to win it all.
Yeah, and he's a Hendrick driver, so that's what
Yeah.
happens. So for me, I will be tipping my cap to I'll be tipping it to NASCAR. Just I feel like how they have dealt with the rain the last 2 weeks in both Nashville and Chicago. Obviously, I know Nashville was in the middle of the day and it really wasn't that much of an effect, but I feel like the way they've handled it since the Charlotte race has been done well. I'm not going to sit here and say that they redeemed themselves from the Coca-Cola 600, but they've definitely, it looks like they're making more of an effort to be sure that they do the right thing for the fans and for the drivers and for everyone involved. So I'll be tipping my cap to NASCAR and how they have been handling the rain since the Coca-Cola 600. So who are you shaking your head to, Big Phil?
I guess this is going to be a little controversial with who you just tipped your cap to, but I'm going NASCAR.
Oh,
Quit scheduling these races this late. The reason you're dealing with rain is because thunderstorms happen more often in the afternoon. And even if it's the same amount of chance of rain in the morning as during the day, give yourself ample time to complete races. We're going to go back to 2014 and we're going to look at the summertime races. So we're going to start after the Coca-Cola 600 and we're going to run through some start times. 1 p.m., 1 p.m., 1 p.m., 3 p.m., but it was in Sonoma, so it was actually noon. 7:30, it's a night race. 7:30 again, a night race. 1 p.m., 1 p.m., 1 p.m., 1 p.m., 1 p.m., and then 7:30 for the Bristol night race. And then you're obviously kind of out of the summer months by that point as you get into the playoffs. If you want races to be completed, start them earlier. You only had a 4-hour and 20-minute window from the original scheduled time of the green flag yesterday to get in a race that was actually shorter than 250 miles, which according to the NASCAR rulebook is not supposed to be allowed. It's something NASCAR has been doing more and more recently. Make your races 250 miles or more. It's part of your rulebook. If drivers violate the rules, they get in trouble. Who's holding NASCAR accountable? And then on top of it, you're not even getting races fully in. Start races earlier in the day. I know NBC had the Mid-Ohio race for IndyCar. Throw one of them on USA or quit signing deals with NBC, who doesn't have their own sports channel. This is ridiculous. It happened a few years ago at New Hampshire because there was early rain. They ran out of daylight. Look, daylight is not an excuse to not get a race in. I understand not every track is lit. You need to start those races earlier. If we go back to 1988 and the Talladega race, you can't help that someone got up into the fence and it took 2.5 hours to repair the fence. That's okay. That race was cut short due to daylight. Other than that, weather, daylight should not be a combination and not be an issue. Get the race in.
damn. Talk to him, Phil. Well, my shaking my head is somewhat maybe going to go against what you had to say. Maybe not. But I am shaking my head to NASCAR as well. Why the hell are we scheduling a race in the South in the dead heat of July? Start time quite literally at the hottest point of the day in the South. Why are we doing this? I when my dad passed out, we had obviously went back, got him checked out and everything, but there were 20 plus people back there dealing with the same shit. There is absolutely no reason why a race in Nashville, Tennessee, because we're not over in North Carolina where you have the mountains that will block that southern wind coming up. That's not where we're at. a southern wind comes up and it gets hot and it's 95 degrees outside with hot air blowing on you, people are bound to pass out. So either move those southern races to the cooler months or move the race back to where they start and the sun is starting to go down and not at 3 o'clock in the dead heat of the day. I think, I saw things before the race even went on, people questioning, why are we starting this? I can't remember if it was 2:30, 3:30, but regardless, right there, around here, that is where it is the absolute hottest. So why are we starting races, at the hottest point of the day and the hottest month of the year? Move the schedule around a little bit, do something, because, man, there were so many fans that just did not get to enjoy that day because of that. So that's who I'm shaking my head to. I know that one probably got a little personal there, but
Yeah. Well, to your point, they used to run Nashville at night, and I have no problem with night races. If it rains at night, just run it the next night. Get the full thing in.
yeah.
But just run it the next night. And at the past, the Nashville race has been like a 5:30 start time, and all of a sudden they're doing it in the middle of the day. Now this race used to be ran in August during the day, but it was in Delaware.
Yeah.
You got the ocean breeze. It's not as far south. So obviously, due to schedule changing, there's not as many north races to put in the summer as there used to be, as we only run one Dover race now, one Michigan race. So I do get it, but make those races later or run them in the morning. It's the summer Daytona race used to be ran because it was hot in Daytona in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have lights at the track. They ran at 11 a.m. on July 4th, no matter what day of the week July 4th was on. Do that.
Yep.
If you don't like it, don't live on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And honestly, who cares about people on the West Coast? NASCAR, we like Trump, and you guys are a bunch of liberals on the West Coast anyway. So stay out there and keep watching the NBA.
Yep, there you go. So we'll move on from tipping your cap and shaking your head before it pisses me off too damn much. But we have Pocono and Indianapolis coming up. Going on with a little bit of Pocono preview. Reddick, Larson, Wallace, and Truex are the only 4 drivers to have an average finishing position that sits in the top 10 at Pocono since 2021. Reddick and Larson are the only 2 drivers that have 3 top 10 finishes in the last 4 races. Hamlin, Elliott, Bowman, and Busch all have wins here since then. Busch, Truex, and Hamlin have the most experience at this track with 36 races for Busch and 34 races for Truex and Hamlin. Denny Hamlin has the most wins at Pocono of the current drivers with 7 wins. Philip, what do the people need to know about Pocono that I didn't just mention?
Well, we'll start with the entry list. Chastain is going to run the Xfinity race. The truck race. There will be 36 entries, so nobody will go home. There will be 29 Xfinity, so one driver will go home, as mentioned earlier by Dawson. Josh Berry will be in the 15. Taylor Gray will be in the 19. Ryan Truex in the 20. And running in the 17 car for Hendrick Motorsports, William Byron. There will be 37 Cup cars in the entry list. Cody Ware in the 15. Dinger in the 16. J.J. Hailey will run the 44. Let me make sure. I'm sure that's an NY Racing entry. Yes, it is. So that's it. If you look at the history of Pocono, name a Hall of Fame driver. He's probably won there. Name a random driver, unless it was a fog-shortened race on a Monday, and he probably has not won there. That was Chris Buescher getting his first career win back in 2016 that I was referencing.
Hey, he's still my champion. He could win it this year.
He could win it. I like my guy Seabell a little better, though.
Dude's got a rocket.
So, look, at the end of the day, they don't call it the tricky triangle for nothing. It's tough. It's fast, but you got to get on those brakes tough, especially going into turn 1. And if, like I said, Hamlin's won here 7 times. Richard Petty won the first race there. You got mixed in with that was guys named Pearson and, a bunch of Hall of Famers. So it truly is a test of talent. It's a talent-based track. The best drivers are going to go out there and run well. But as far as the lower series, they've been plagued with cautions early over the last few years. So that truck and Xfinity race could be a little long, and there could be some tore-up race cars and race trucks.
Okay, so it sounds like to me I need to watch the truck in the Xfinity race, or at least if you're new to NASCAR, that might be a good race for you to watch.
You should always watch the truck in the Xfinity race.
You're probably right. I probably should. But moving on to Indianapolis. We are finally back running the Indianapolis Oval. Last time we ran it was back in 2020, where Kevin Harvick had won that race and the previous race. He won the last two races at the Oval. Brad Keselowski is the last active driver to win at the Indy Oval in 2019. Reddick and Christopher Bell, two very talented drivers, have only run one race here, so it'll be interesting to see them come out of the gates. And Reddick finished 8th, Christopher Bell finished 12th, so they have done good here, so it's possible they could do better here. But as far as average finishing position goes, Joey Logano, he's run 12 races and has an average finishing position of 10.8. So kind of have a little bit of movement there. And then other than Kyle Busch, no other active driver has won 2 or more races here. So who knows? This race has the potential to give us a new winner, maybe, possibly. I don't know. But I'm glad Indy's back. Classic track. So what do the people need to know about Indy, Philip?
Yeah, it's solid ground. It should have never came off the schedule.
No,
So,
absolutely.
great job by Roger Penske and NASCAR to bring it back. You mentioned that, a lot of guys have multiple wins there, but it's only ever been ran once on the Cup Series schedule. It's never been ran twice. There's a couple years. Obviously, it's not been ran at all since it first came in the mid-'90s, and Jeff Gordon took home the inaugural checkered flag there. So we'll see who kisses the bricks. Generally, it's a big-name driver, but, hey, Paul Menard had one career win, and it came at the Brickyard 400. So
Put your money
it's
on
going to be
Kyle
a lot
Larson,
like
people.
Pocono. Yeah, it's going to be a lot like Pocono, right? You're going to have fast straightaways, and then you got to get on the brakes hard. So Pocono will be a perfect dress rehearsal. I think it's kind of interesting that they're running these tracks back to back. I think it's been done before. I want to say it was originally on the schedule that way in 2020. Don't know if it actually played out that way. And don't quote me on that. There may have been a race in between, but I know they were very close on the schedule, closer than they had been in the past back in 2020 originally. So, and that was the last time that obviously they ran there in the Cup Series. So it'll be interesting. I believe the Xfinity Series will also run there. The trucks will be back at IRP. I'm sure it'll probably be part of a doubleheader with the ARCA races. It usually is. IRP always has a lot of good racing. It's a very fun truck race. It was the first race of the playoffs last year. I can't remember if it is or not this year. Shane Van Gisbergen got his first ever oval start there a year ago in the truck series. It's usually a lot of bumping and banging. It's a track that you can take tires late. Grant Enfinger did it a few years back and went from 14th to 1st in just a matter of a couple laps in order to win that truck race. So IRP is a phenomenal track, and that's where the truck race will be next week.
Yeah. So I'm glad it's back. And hey, before we move on to the Backstretch podcast, I am going to back up just a little bit. I realized I didn't go over this whenever I wanted to, but I do want to get into what the playoff picture looks like. Obviously, we have our winners: Larson, Hamlin, Byron, Bell, Elliott, Reddick, Blaney, Keselowski, Bowman, Logano, Suarez, Cindric, but sitting there on the bubble, well above that cut line, is Martin Truex Jr. at plus 125, Ty Gibbs at plus 84, Ross Chastain at plus 53, and Chris Buescher at plus 45. Next in line, falling behind the cut line, is Bubba Wallace at minus 45, Chase Briscoe at minus 88, and Kyle Busch at minus 98. So, with that being said, Philip, now that we are doing bi-weekly episodes, how do you want to do this? Probably should have discussed this before the episode, but how do you want to do the Backstretch Challenge?
I say we do Pocono, and then we just text each other next week and do Indianapolis.
Okay, fair enough. And I'll tweet out who we pick for Indy. So
yeah, that works.
All right, who are your two keepers? Oh, Philip is now up on me 12-6. He won last week with Larson, Byron, Truex, Reddick, and Blaney. Reddick obviously wrecked, so this is for Nashville because we didn't do Chicago. But Philip had an average finishing position of 14.25, and then I had Hamlin, Elliott, Chastain, who wrecked, Gibbs, and Buescher in my garage with an average finishing position of 14.5, giving us only a 0.25 difference, which, if I'm not mistaken, Philip, we had one. Coda was equally as close, And that's the closest that we have been all season long. So other than Coda. So, Philip, who are your 2 keepers this week?
Well, it's hard not to keep Kyle Larson.
Okay, that's
so I'm going to
fair.
keep him. And I'll keep Truex.
All right. And with that being said, given that we are heading to the good old Pocono, do I have to keep 2?
Yeah, those rules you made at the beginning.
Damn it. Okay. I will keep Hamlin. And just because he's the most talented of the 4 drivers I have remaining, give me Elliott.
And also the points leader.
Well, there's that too. So, all right. You want first pick?
You get to choose. You lost.
I kind of want first pick, Philip.
All right, go ahead.
All right. I'm going to steal Reddick from you. I think that's a good pick.
All righty. It is. It is. Give me my championship pick. Give me Seabell.
Damn it.
And, oof. This is tough. You know what? He's due for a good week. Give me Rowdy.
Okay. Seabell and Rowdy. I hate you.
So we each have one of the 2 cheaters from 2 years ago that got disqualified.
You know what? Someone looking back, Reddick, Larson, Wallace, and Truex are the only 4 drivers who have an average finishing position in the top 10 at Pocono. And I think it could be done that he wins his first race of the season this week. So give me Truex. Okay. And then, I guess because Bubba's sitting there too, give me Wallace as well. Give me Bubba.
I like your Toyota idea, and I like your idea of a guy possibly getting his first win of the season. Give me Ty Gibbs.
Well, Ty Gibbs get his first Dubski of the season. It'd be interesting to see. So, just to recap, I've got Hamlin, Elliott, Reddick, Truex, and Wallace. Philip, you have Larson. Why do I have Truex sitting here? Did you keep Truex?
I must have. I don't pay
Damn it.
attention.
Fuck. You piece of shit.
Oh, pay attention to who the hell you're drafting.
No. All right. Well, good.
pick up on it.
I didn't want Gibbs or Bush anyways. Fuck it. Give me Byron. I'll take Byron. Whatever.
Alrighty.
Whatever you like, you little bastard. All right. Well, that is your backstretch challenge. So we are now at the point of the podcast where Philip and I, this section is strictly really for me to test Philip's knowledge on sports, because if y'all know anything, if you know Philip personally, you know that he just has a memory bank that will just absolutely amaze you. If you ever do get the opportunity to sit down and speak with him about literally anything, he will know any and everything, every little detail. It's the craziest thing. And so at this point, we try to stump him with 3 different trivia questions. Philip stumps me every week with 3 trivia questions because I've got the memory of a goldfish and forget things every 5 seconds as they happen. So with that being said, Philip, I have got 3 trivia questions for you. You've got 3 trivia questions for me. Do you want to answer or ask first?
I'll ask first.
All right, go for it.
All right. Because I know you like to do a little track research.
No, fuck.
What former Cup Series driver
Okay.
went back to IndyCar racing and broke the track record for Penske Motorsports at 223 miles an hour in an IndyCar?
Okay. Well, I know Jimmy Johnson went back and raced IndyCar, but it wasn't him because he wouldn't have raced for Penske. Is that correct?
Well, so
or was it
back to IndyCar? He should have been there for the first time. No.
Well, okay.
He broke the record in 2014. I should have added that. I think it was 14. It's either 14 or 15. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, so he wasn't originally an IndyCar driver.
Yep.
Correct.
Went to Cup and then went back to Indy.
And went back to Indy. Huh. This is a tough one because you're going to say the name, And you said this was 2014. How long was he in the Cup Series?
Better part of a decade.
Okay. Someone relatively relevant. Was he good in the Cup Series?
He was solid. He won a few races, but I think they're all road courses. I will tell you, he is not American.
Not American. Yeah, no. I'm not going to know. I'm going to sit here for 5 minutes thinking, but I'm not going to know it.
Juan Pablo Montoya.
Damn it. I would have known that. Record. Damn it. I would have known that. Never mind. Dang. If I thought about it, I should have just taken a good crack at it. I would have known that. If I had just spent 5 minutes thinking about, okay, in 2014, who was not American in racing, I could have got that because okay, dang. Okay, now I feel stupid. All right. Easy one for you. What year was Indianapolis Motor Speedway built? Oh, do I got you on this one?
I think it was built in the late 60s. Oh, Indy. I was thinking Pocono. I'm on the Pocono mindset. It was like 1905 or 1906
You're close.
Or something like that.
You're close. You're in the ballpark, so we'll give you some credit for it. But it was 1909.
Okay.
And it is the oldest.
And it was in the O's.
Yeah, it is the oldest track in the United States.
Oldest car racing track.
Yes, car racing track.
It has Churchill Downs, home of the Kentucky Derby.
Yep.
Soldier.
Yeah, where Sydney and I, we are going to Michigan here in a few weeks, and I will be taking her by the good old Churchill Downs on our way up there from Nashville. So, all right, it's question number 2 for me.
All right. I'm going to throw you a little curveball here.
No, fuck.
In honor of Wimbledon being going on.
Oh, fuck. Tennis?
What?
Serena Williams.
Male tennis player. Male.
Roger Federer.
Tennis player. No, Roger Federer. Has won the most majors at 24.
Okay, not Roger Federer. There's one other guy that it could be, and when you say his name, I'm going to know it. So give me a second to think of it. It's not Roger Federer. Fuck. You're going to say his name, and I'm going to feel stupid for not knowing it. Fuck. If I ask for his first name, will it give it away too damn much?
Yeah, it'll give it away way too much.
Can you give me the initials?
I'll give you his initials.
Yeah, give me his initials, because I know it.
ND.
ND. Oh, shit.
The other guy you were probably thinking of was Rafael Nadal. He has 22. He's not the answer.
Okay, then that's who I was thinking of, and beyond those two, I know nothing about tennis.
He is active.
Nico
Novak Djokovic.
Fuck, I knew that one too. I know that one. All right. Your question number 2 of the night. We're sticking with Indianapolis for all of these, just for your reference. But who was the first driver to win the Indianapolis 500 3 times? Bonus points if you can tell me what years he won.
Was it Marco Andretti?
No, it was not Marco Andretti. I believe it.
Well, have I heard of this guy, or is this some guy from like the 20s?
Well, you're pretty close. It was some guy from the 20s.
No, I'm not going to have a clue. I know nothing about IndyCar racing.
So he won in 1928, 33, and 36, and his name was Luis Mayer.
Never heard of him.
So how far back does your sports knowledge go? Like 50s? Like post-World War II?
I mean, it depends on the sport, right? So like guess. NFL, NFL Super Bowl era. I mean, I know a little bit of the, pre-Super Bowl era stuff. College basketball pretty much beginning of the NCAA tournament, but I don't know as in-depth college basketball. I know the general going back to the beginning of the NCAA tournament. NBA, I'm decent. NHL is pretty much our lifetime. NBA, I already said NBA, decent. NASCAR, the modern era. IndyCar, like the last 5 years.
All right.
So, tennis, our lifetime. Golf, a little before our lifetime.
Okay. Give me your last and final one to embarrass me today. You just want to
All right.
bury me today, God.
Well,
Talking about tennis.
since next week we won't have a podcast, and next week is the Open Championship, which golfer has the most career
Tiger
major
Woods.
wins? No.
Hang on. Arnold Palmer.
Good guess. No.
Damn it. I'm just naming a bunch of old golfers.
It would have been known as like Arnold Palmer's biggest rival. Even though he kind of came around, like he came as Arnold Palmer's career was kind of ending.
Which was when?
I will tell you that this guy's winning span, because I just looked it up to help you. His first major was won in 1962 and last one in 1986. We'll give you a hint that there is an actor who has the same first name and whose last name is the same but has a son on the end.
Phil Mickelson.
No, the actor has a son on the end, not the golfer.
Shit, I have no idea.
Do you want some movies the actor played in?
Sure.
The Shining, One That Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest. I can't think of any other movies he played in.
You know, that helped me out none. I wasn't very I wasn't very cultured as a child. Like, I was very sheltered as a child.
All right, the actor is Jack Nicholson.
Hey, I was close.
So who's the golfer?
Jack Nicklaus. No.
Nicholas. Come on.
Okay, well, you know what?
You ever met anybody whose last name is Nicklaus?
Yeah, I'm thinking there's another podcast that I listen to that there's a guy whose last name is Nichols, but it's spelled like Nicklaus, and that, I don't know, that's just where my head.
Josh Nichols.
Yeah.
Stepbrother to Drake Parker.
You gotta give me more modern stuff. I'm not before my lifetime, Philip. My memory does not, like, unless I read a book about it, which I just started reading books like 3 months ago. Like, unless I like,
hey,
ask me something about like Darrell Waltrip. I'll be able to tell you a little bit.
Yeah,
So
I'm sorry, but hey, a major golf championship is coming up next week, so you know, I thought Mason would be happy I was asking you a golf question.
Yeah, Mason could.
Tiger Woods is second though, so it was a good.
Yeah, I figured that was about as close as I could get. So, all right. How many owners has Indianapolis Motor Speedway had since 1909?
So right now it's Roger Penske.
Mm-hmm. And when did he buy it? Bonus question.
Ooh.
It was recent. Yeah.
Like, it was like 2019.
Yep, 2019. Roger Penske bought it. So who owned it before him?
It was like this company that owned part of IndyCar, and they owned the series, and there was that whole split in the late 90s. But I don't. It was like a company. It wasn't like a person. Oh, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
At least if
maybe that company that owns Indy owned it before. Was this individual like whoever runs IndyCar, kind of like the France, like if you would say like Bill France owned Daytona, because NASCAR owns Daytona.
Okay, so technically, yes, it was a company that owned it, but the company is owned by an individual.
Yeah, but it's this company that runs IndyCar, right?
Believe so. Yes.
So they owned it. That's two.
Okay, his name is Tony.
I want to say they purchased
Tony
it
Holman was his name.
Okay.
Oh, and he has a book, which I'm gonna buy.
There hasn't been many owners. It's only like 4 or 5. It was like the original track founder, and then it was somebody else, and then I want to say it was that company.
Yep.
And then Penske. I think it's 4.
Yes. So you are correct. It is 4. So Carl Fisher from 1909 to 1927, Eddie Rickenbacker from 1927 to 1945, Tony Holman from 45 to 2019, and then, of course, Roger Penske.
Okay.
So, yep.
Felt somewhat confident about that. I mean, not totally, but I knew that I knew it was the original track owner. I knew there was only one or two between him and the guy who kind of runs IndyCar.
Could you imagine owning something for 74 years and then selling it like that?
I mean, the only thing I'm going to probably own for 74 straight years is going to be body parts.
Oh, well, I guess that's true. But, all right. Well, that has been our...
Maybe the teddy bear I got when I was 2 days old, I might own for 74 years if I never... Yeah.
Yeah, you keep that.
But I don't think I'm going to sell him.
Yeah, no, he ain't going nowhere.
Blue Bear is priceless.
Hold on, do you have Blue Bear with you?
No.
Oh, Blue Bear can't make an appearance.
He guards my room at my parents' house, and he wears the first NFL jersey that I was ever gifted by my Uncle Lewis when I was like a year old. It's a John Elway jersey.
He's gonna have to make an appearance, and I'll bring my puppy. I had a little puppy dog, like a little. I don't even know what kind of dog it would be, but
is it at a Rona's house, or do you?
It's at a Rona's house somewhere. Now, Lord knows I've asked her for years to try to dig that thing up, and she is yet to do it. She won't give it to me. And now that I have a kid on the way, I might have to leverage that fact a little bit. Like, hey, I have a kid on the way. You need to give me my damn puppy dog.
No.
But anyways, if you were listening to this part of the podcast still listening to us two doofuses just goof around a little bit, we appreciate you for sticking around. But this has been episode number 29 of the Okay Listen Here Roundtable. Excuse me. Just as a reminder, we will not be recording next week, but our next recording will be on July 22nd. And then we'll continue the bi-weekly trend from that point moving forward. And Philip, you look like you have something to say.
I was going to say, we're not going to be previewing much on July 22nd as we will be heading into the Olympic break, so I think it'd be a good time.
That's fine. I hate the fucking previews anyways. I have nothing to offer.
We can, yeah. You going to do anything special for me on my birthday during our next recording?
You know, Philip, I might do something special for you during our... Wait, is your birthday that day?
We get at least
is your birthday the 22nd?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we don't have to record that day, Philip.
Hey, you jerk. I know your birthday.
Hey, I have a kid on the way. I can't keep up with a lot.
It is March 27th, right?
See, Philip, you know everything. You could probably tell me.
It may or may not have helped. Okay, it may or may not have helped that my girlfriend I dated for 4 years had the same birthday as you. That also.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a smidge.
Exactly. Oh, that is right. That is right. Yeah, come on now.
Yeah.
Now hold on. Here's how I know if you're just giving me shit or not. When's Arona's birthday?
I don't know Arona's. I know Brock's.
Okay, I didn't ask Brock's. I asked Arona's.
I don't know when our friends' parents' birthdays are. I know when our friends' birthdays
when's my
are.
sister's birthday?
She don't count. She's your sister. She ain't my friend. She's my friend's sister.
Well, hey, look, here's the deal. When I see it is so-and-so's birthday on Facebook or on Snapchat or something, that's my reminder. Like, oh, shit, maybe I'll send you a gift card or something. But
I know Brock is April 22nd. I do know that.
Beyond me. Call me a bad friend, fake friend, whatever.
Oh, man.
But whatever. We'll figure out a time to record. We don't have to record on your freaking birthday, dude. You need to go out and party instead of sitting here talking to my dumb ass. But hey, if you are listening,
we'll see.
If you are listening to this episode, we appreciate you for sticking around and listening to us just go back and forth about, topics we love to talk about. So whenever it is that we decide to record next, we will see you guys on the next one.